Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Tony over at Homeowner Repairs. Steve and I are in the shop right now, and we're getting ready to throw a steering rack in this 2013 Chevy Tahoe. So we'll show you what's involved with it, and let's get cracking on this thing.
All right, so we're gonna replace the steering rack on this 2013 Tahoe, and we're gonna show you where the rack is and how we're gonna disconnect it, and then we'll get going on it. So your steering rack is connected over here to your tie rod ends, and this steering rack, we're looking at it right now, and it looks like it was changed at one time because it looks really clean, but it's leaking out of the boot over here. And we've been watching this for a little bit, and it's been leaking a little, and then now it's leaking a lot. So we're going in to change it, and we're gonna disconnect our two tie rod ends on each side here, one over here, one on the other side. And before we take it out, we're gonna crack these two lines loose and pop the disconnect the tie rod in from the socket here, and we're gonna just make sure it turns a little bit because we're gonna transfer our parts over on the floor or on the bench, the two tie rod ends. We're gonna measure everything out so it's really close, and that's how we're gonna transfer it. So, all right, so we got our 15/16 wrench. We wanna crack this nut loose on the tie rod. And, yeah, we already cracked it loose. Okay, so, and then this is a 21 millimeter over here. Let's zip this off. And we're gonna hit the tie rod in with the hammer here and probably wipe some grease off so it doesn't splatter Tony. Okay. All right, just popped up. So this one's disconnected. We loosened that jam nut over here so that we can take our sleeve off when we get it over on the bench. So it'll be a lot easier to loosen that now. So let's come over and crack this one loose here. All right, get this one loose. And let's get this tie rod off. Okay, so this one's off. All right, so we got our 15 millimeter. Damn, now I have 16 millimeter. Okay, I know it's a 15 because we've taken these off a million times. We have the bolts that are holding the steering rack on, and you have two of them right here, and there's one through this hole in the frame over here. There's a hole up in here, there's a bolt in there, and that's gonna hold the other one off. So we're gonna loosen these up right now, and we're probably gonna leave one of them in because we need to go up top and we need to disconnect that steering shaft. All right, so we have the two lines here and this little manifold that connects this to the steering rack. And I'll tell you right now that I got my head up in this way, I'm gonna be able to take this lines off and set them aside here. There's a 5/16 bolt in the middle of it, and this little plastic clip. We're gonna just roll this off right now and get that, and that's covering the bolt right there. So we're gonna get a 5/16, take this off. It's gonna leak some fluids. We're gonna have a bucket under it. And then we're gonna have access to our, looks like a 11 or 12 millimeter bolt here for the steering shaft. And I'm gonna be able, looks like I'm gonna be able to take it off from here. So basically all we're gonna do is take this manifold off here, disconnect the one shaft right here, and unbolt it, and this thing's gonna come right out. Now I just jinxed myself.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
I was trying to get the light in here for you guys. I got a quarter drive ratchet. I'm gonna see if I can crack this thing loose with it. Yeah, okay. All right, now I cracked it loose, and I'm gonna have to go get a bucket to get underneath this thing because it's gonna leak some fluid. And we got new fluid for the pump and everything, so we're good. But I'm gonna get a bucket. We're just gonna crack this all the way and just keep unthreading it so that we can get it off, and it's gonna leak fluid. So I'm gonna go get a bucket right now. So we just finished unthreading the bolt, and it's a long one. So I probably could have got my zip gun in here, which, I may do that next time. So now I'm gonna crack this loose slowly and get these lines out. Yeah, the fluid's starting to leak out. You can grab the lines individually because this is just the manifold that holds them in. So right here, so this piece here, so we got them out, and they should have given us 2 new O-rings with the kit, and these are just a fresh fitting. Oh, and what they do is they give you new O-rings. If you look at this, Tone, there's an O-ring seal on this right here.
Yep.
And it's kind of shitty, and there's one in the old rack, so they give you one for that. They give you 2 of these new ones in the kit.
Yep.
So all right, we're gonna set this bolt off to the side, and the fluid's draining pretty good, and it's gonna drain for a couple minutes because the pump's gonna end up draining down on this thing. So we're gonna put all new fluid in it anyways, you know. So we're gonna let it drain now. We're gonna get a socket for this. I think it's 11. We're gonna try it and crack this loose for the steering rack here, and let's see what we got. All right, so we're gonna take the shaft off of the steering rack right now. We got an 11mm socket with this little setup, and we're gonna put it up on this bolt here and see if it comes out. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna soak that with more penetrating oil, and we're gonna pry the shaft off right here. We're gonna pry this off, and we're gonna slide it up. And we're noting the position that it's in right now. It should have a flat spot on it. So we want to get it nice and wet with fluid, and then we're going to get a bar and we're going to push up on it to try and knock it off of the shaft. And once they get going, they're usually pretty good. So, all right, so Tom, if you can look up there, I have the pry bar here, and it's kind of in the middle of the fork where the spline is in the center. And I'm going to tap on it and let's see what happens here. Oh, geez, look at this. It's coming right up. See the flat spot facing us?
Yep.
Okay, it's basically off. So the rack is centered right now with the car. When we pull the wheel and it was straight. So when we get this on the floor, after we take these 3 last bolts off, we're gonna we're gonna measure from tie rod end to tie rod end. We're gonna count our turns coming off so that when we put it back together, we know we're super close. And we're gonna check it with the tow bar at the end. But ultimately, if your measurement from grease fitting to grease fitting is dead balls, it's right where it was before. So, all right, so we got this shaft up here, and we're gonna start taking these bolts out. These are considerable size ones. Let's see here. I got 2 flat spots on the shaft, and there's one for the groove. It pretty much only goes on one way. It's round on the bottom, so you can't really mess this up. So we got this off. Sitting on the side right now. We have our lines disconnected from it, and let's get these 3 big bolts out here. This one's smaller. This one looks like it's a 19. All right, so on this side we got a 17mm. We're gonna take that one out. It just comes back out, so it should be disconnected from the rack at this time. All right, there's that one. And then the other one is a 15/16 or 24 mil. And I'm gonna just catch this one, just catch a thread on it and pull this one out. This thing's gonna be loose now. Okay, get this one out. And it's got a bracket up here. Put the light up. Right up here. And that's another 17. All right, let's zip that one out. There we go. Okay, now this thing is going to be falling up. So we want to pull this out. And if Tony wasn't holding the camera, he could probably help me, but...
Holy crap, look at the size of that rack.
Okay.
It's the biggest rack I've ever seen in my life.
All right, it's up. All right.
Steve, you ever had a rack that big in your hands before?
Not this big. And it's heavy, too.
All right.
All right, so we're gonna lay this out on the floor, and we're gonna measure out our tie rod ends, and then take these off, and they're loose, so they'll unthread really easy. But we'll get set up on the floor and show you what we got going on. All right, so we've got the 2 racks laid out, we're matching them up. Everything looks good. Now we're just measuring off from our tie rod ends here. And they didn't give us new nuts with it, so we have to reuse the nuts, but we cracked it loose and everything seems to be spinning out free. So we're gonna measure from the end of the nut to the center of the grease fitting to get a close mark. We have a tow bar, not everybody may have one, so right now we're at 6 inches on the money, right into the middle of that. So we're gonna take both of these parts off. We'll count our turns coming off so we know we'll be close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19 and a half. All right, so let's get this spun right off here. Well, there's got a lot of threads to eat up here. Yeah, it wouldn't be right if there wasn't a little burr on the new one. All right, let's see if we got enough here. So we said 19 and a half. Let's start off here. There's your half. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, there's your 19 and a half. All right, so we'll get this in, and we're gonna check our toe to make sure it's good. And we're gonna do the same on the other side. It's okay. All right, so we transferred our tie rod ends over. We just hand tighten the lock nuts onto the tie rods in the right position where they are. We've got our new O-rings. We're gonna get the rack in place. We have 2 bolts here that are through the slides, and I got one that's sitting on the top here that goes through for the other side. And we'll show it to you. It's right where my finger is though. And then if we catch these 2 in here, the rack ain't gonna fall out and we'll be good. So we're gonna slide the rack up in place like this and then pull it back over like this, like we took it out, and we should be good. Boy, this new rack is a little stiff. There's one. Okay. I want to make sure we catch these bolts. The threads on them. Okay, these are caught. We got the rack back in place. We're gonna catch these bolts now. This one that comes through the top here. And these thread into the rack as well. So we'll get this thing loose, and we're just making sure that we catch the threads correctly. Don't just try and impact these in. And we got the one here that we needed the 17 extension for. It's on the gun. See if we can get this one to catch for us. Okay, it feels like we got them all caught. So we're gonna run them down slowly. them all before I tighten anything. Compacted those two tight. Let's get these two here. Okay. All right, so they gave us two different types of O-rings. We took this style out, and it came through the new one here, but the rubber is very soft here. I think you're supposed to just poke a hole in it, because this recesses right into the steering rack right here, and these O-rings don't fit very well. So this is the seal that we use, and it's very hard on the outside where my fingernail is right here, and then this is super soft in here, so like you can poke a hole through it, and the pressure, once you start it up, it must just poke the hole through it. So we're just putting a little hole in it, and this is what's going to sit in the rack. We'll show you how it sits into the steering rack here. We've got the holes right here in the rack. We sat the other one in, and this one just sits in, and then these sit flush like that. I'll wipe them down nice and neat. Push them in so they're fitting flush. And then we have our lines here. We put this line on, it's just gonna push right through that as we tighten it down, and it'll be a nice tight fitting. So we got our other line over here, and we gotta put these two together like this. And we got them both started now. So now we're gonna get the bolt, and we're gonna run the bolt, and then the bolt is gonna press these things right in. All right, so we got our 5/16 or 8mm bolt. We're gonna get in here and find the hole. And I think I'm gonna use the little impact driver, a little zip gun I got, and try and run this down, because it was like a long bolt. Oh, there it goes. All right, I'm gonna start it with the little quarter drive ratchet, make sure I'm going in. We got a little longer extension here. Yeah, we're gonna try and, we got the hoses lined up. Looks like it's not tightening evenly. I'm gonna take it out, take a look and see if we're supposed to cut that O-ring completely open to slide on the tube, and I'm thinking I might have to. That didn't seem like it wanted to go in very well. So we ended up taking the O-rings, and the ones that look like boots, and we put a little slice in them. We greased up the line and we slid them on, both of these. And put some grease on it, really helps getting them to go up there. And we used a rag to grab the rubber, twist it, and then pushed it up. And this is what was on there originally. So now I'm gonna go up and set these in place, and then we're gonna tighten the bracket down. All right, that one, everything's greased up. You gotta slide the bracket in between the other line so they go on as a pair like this. Everything's greased up nice. It's falling right in place. And we're gonna hand tighten this. Make sure we get it started right. We're gonna keep wiggling this around here till we get it so we know it's going in flush. I want to make sure this thing is going down flush, and it feels like it is. So I'm going to get a little mirror and look in there on the side to make sure this is all flush. You know what, I can see it from the bottom side here, and looks like I got to tighten it up just a whisker more. Okay, that's it. Okay, those are tight. We have our 4 bolts up here tight, 2 here, the 2 here. now we can take our tie rods and sit them into our
Steering knuckles.
steering knuckle. Sorry guys. Late night.
Happens to the best
So
of
we
us.
got that one in. Let's get this one in. Alright, we'll get our nuts on these. We have the two over here, the tie rods. These were the 19s. Excuse me, 21s. I'll let you know. And we need to go and put that steering shaft on now. Now it went down pretty easy. I could have put it on before the lines, but why would I want to do that, right? So I wanted to make sure my wheels were kind of straight with the tie rod ends, and we get the lines on there. So if I can push up on this, you know, we have a flat spot on this thing here, and we had it like this, and here's the groove for the steering rack, and it just dropped down into place. So it slides right up and comes down. It only goes on one way, so we're going to tighten that 11 millimeter right now. 11 millimeter. All right, we're going to put a little ratchet on that, make sure it's tight. Okay, that's tight. These don't have cotter pins on these. Make sure they're tight. All right, we're checking this tire with the steering shaft to the rack, making sure it's tight. Oh yeah, it's tight. Okay. Now look at the sheer importance that this thing has. Okay, it's gonna
So
go
what is
on
that? Right,
just
let's
like
get a
this.
close up of it.
Yeah,
Little
let's get a
freaking
close
piece.
up. I took this cover back off because this goes on like this, and look at it, it slides down, it covers that pole. Ain't it pretty? Okay. All right, now
And only now.
let's try and get this cover back on.
It's good to be the cameraman.
All tools in here to tighten this thing up. All right, tighten that up. Okay, so we got all our 4 bolts tight. We have the steering shaft on and tight. We have the lines on. We showed you how to put those sleeves / bushings that they gave us. We put those on, it's sealed nice and tight, put a little grease on everything, so everything went together nice. We tightened our 2 tie rod ends, and now we can lower the vehicle down, put our tires on, and we're gonna fill up the power steering reservoir, and we're gonna keep the wheels off the ground and turn it left and right to bleed the system, to burp it. We're gonna start filling the reservoir. Trying not to overfill it. We're up to level here, so we're gonna start this. I'm gonna have Tony start it, and I'm gonna watch this power steering pressure lines to make sure we don't have a leak. And we're gonna have Tony turn the wheels left and right, and then we'll burp this thing. Or do you want a video? And I'll do it.
I can. You want to do it and I'll video?
Yeah.
All right.
You gotta look for a leak. Okay, right
that.
there.
Yep. It's not leaking.
Alright, so it sounds like we can get a little more fluid in here. Pump should quiet down. I'm gonna go steer it a little bit more. Alright, so we can see the level in there, and we're going to wait for this to aeration to come down, and then we're going to top off the fluid level. We have the air out of it now. It's nice and quiet. You can hear it. It's a little low on fluid. We shut it off. We're waiting for all the air bubbles to go away, and we'll just top it off, and we know we'll have a nice, clean, accurate line. And the only thing left we got to do is double check the toe-in on this. As long as you guys counted your tie rod ends on your turns and took your measurements, you should really be close with it. So if you want to have a double check with the wheel line, it's probably a good thing, or get a tow bar and do it yourself. It's pretty easy and inexpensive.